I'm in one of my favorite teaching positions, and we're going to talk about side spin or English. Okay? In America, we call it English. Every other country in the world calls it side. They are more correct than we are, but it's still English to me. Okay, when you use English, and there's such a question mark around everywhere with novice players and beginners. And one person will say, oh, I know how to make them with English. It throws the object ball, you got to allow for that. Next person will say, well, it curves, that's what you allow for. Next person will say, well, it squirts off the tip, and I got to allow for that. One person will say, well, it squirts off the tip and throws, got to allow for both of them. So there's a big mixture of what people think happens, and I hope I can clear that up for you today. Okay, here we go. If I hit this ball with right-hand English, 3 things can happen to make me miss the shot. The first thing that happens is some of the energy in this cue going through the right side of that ball pushes it to the left a degree or 2, not that much. And the more English you use, the farther you hit the ball on the side, the more it pushes it offline. So on a long shot, it can get thrown way offline, sometimes a couple inches or 2.5, 3 inches on the length of the table shot. That's called deflection or squirt. It's 50-50. A lot of people call it deflection, a lot of people call it squirt. But know this, when you hit the ball with English, it's not going straight. Impossible. Now, the second thing that can happen is, especially on a new cloth and a slow speeds, when you hit it with right-hand spin, it'll deflect to the left, but then if it's got a long ways to travel and it's going slow, it can curve back a little bit, but it'll seldom, almost never, curve back enough to make the ball. Now, it's a different story if you elevate a little bit the cue and shoot a little bit down on the ball. Now it will deflect, it always does, and it might curve back enough to make the ball or even too much. And that's how we curve the cue ball, by elevating and shooting down with, in this case, low right spin. So it can deflect or squirt, it can curve on the way to the object ball, and the third thing that happens when you use English is this. The cue ball comes towards the object ball like this, and when they collide, the 8 ball feels a little friction going that way. So instead of going straight ahead, that friction can push the 8 ball slightly to my left. That's called throwing the object ball. So you have 3 things: squirt or deflection, curve sometimes, throw. Now, that's very confusing if you got to worry about all those things. But thankfully, we don't have to worry about all of those things. Here's why. On normal shots, I'm talking normal speeds up to higher speeds. First of all, the cue ball always deflects. It always goes crooked. On 99.5 out of 100 shots, it gets there so quick there's never any curve. 99.5% of the shots, you don't have to worry about any curve. And guess what? At normal or high speeds, there's not enough throw to miss the ball. Okay? So the big culprit of missing a shot, out of 100 shots missed with English, about 95 are missed because of this first thing, this deflection or squirt. Cue ball squirts off the tip to the opposite side. Okay? Seldom, very seldom you have to worry about curve. Even some old books used to say, oh yeah, well, you got to allow for the curve. Almost never. Always deflection. And the only time you have to worry about throw is at very slow speeds. If you shoot the ball very slow speed like that, then you can throw a ball enough to miss. We seldom shoot that soft. Very rarely. But when you do shoot soft, you can throw the ball enough to miss it. At normal speeds or higher speeds, not enough throw to miss the ball. So the culprit is deflection. And here's the answer we want you to remember. When using right-hand spin, aim a little bit to the right on the object ball. When you're using left-hand spin, aim a little left on the object ball. That's how easy it is to remember. Right English, aim right. Left English, aim left. On the object ball, not the pocket. Okay? So English is a necessary evil. We have to learn it to play good pool. Anybody that says they can play just as good a pool without English as a person with English will also lie about other things. Okay, so English is a necessary evil for pool players. It makes us miss, but we need it to get position. We moved over to this corner. This is a neat shot to show English, how it deflects, and the effects of English. First, I'm going to have Mark aim at the normal spot he'd aim at with no English, and we'll see the cue ball will go almost straight across the table. You'll see the cue ball leave in this direction. Okay, now we're going to have Mark shoot exactly the same shot, and we want to get position on the 11 ball. So now, in order to arrive here and make the 2 ball, he'll have to aim, remember left English, aim left, so he'll have to aim about that much crooked. And then you'll see when he aims crooked, he's aiming to hit too much ball. Then the tip will push the ball back to here, and he'll make the ball. Now you see the difference? He got up on that side of the 11, didn't he? Okay.
You see how hot the cue ball was? I didn't shoot hard, but all that spin carried it.
Yeah. Now we're going to use right-hand spin. So the cue ball goes back that way. So now there's where he's got to hit the deuce. Now right-hand spin, he's going to aim to the right a little bit. So he's going to aim as if he's going to hit the rail first. But the Q-tip will then push the ball, the deflection will make the ball go this way. Watch. Get the idea? So that's why we use English. It changes the direction the cue ball goes when it gets to the rail. Every shaft deflects a little different. So a thick shaft on a cue, 13 millimeters, is stiffer, so it doesn't give as much, so it pushes the ball off farther. So a thick shaft squirts a little more than a thin shaft. Thin shaft is a little more wobbly, it gives more, the ball gives less. So, but that doesn't make pros use a thin shaft. They still use a 13 millimeter shaft, most of them. They just get used to the deflection. And some companies have been working on reducing the deflection somewhat, and are doing a great job. Most good players, they get right up to the ball, they adjust for, let's say he's using left spin. He'll get down, aim to the left, put the Q-tip right up to the left side of the ball like that. A lot of people just start out right where they want to go. Some players, and some players swear by this, they'll get down, aim at the center of the cue ball, like this, and then they'll turn the right hand, and that's which kind of allows for the deflection, but your bridge length has to be just the right length and so forth to do this, but some players do that. Another thing that some players do when they use English is they'll aim at the middle of the ball, and then as they shoot, they'll swing the arm in or out to add English. And that's called backhand English, and some good players swear by it. But most players do what Mark is doing. They go right up and aim with that left English and allow for the deflection right away. But this is what some players do. They'll aim at the middle, they'll aim right here, and then as they shoot, they'll move the stick around. Like that. And some of the people are very good at that, so we're not going to say don't do it. But it's a little scarier than do it the way most players do it. Remember when we were talking about using side spin and deflection? Well, here is a very interesting shot that involves deflection, tangent lines, and many aspects of the pool game to get position down on that 8 ball. And Mark much rather would have had position over here, because this is where he'd like to have the cue ball so he could get position on the 8. Just so happens he got the wrong angle. So what he's going to have to do, remember when you use high right spin, right English, you got to aim a little right. So instead of aiming here, Mark is actually going to have to aim at the wrong side of the ball, just a little bit. He's going to have to aim the 12 right about here, because then that right-hand English will push the cue ball to the left. So that's where he has to aim to contact there. Then there's another thing involved with his shot. If he shoots the ball in here, he's hitting it almost head on, which means the cue ball will lose almost all its speed. It'll go down the tangent line just an inch or so. It'll come way up here and go down for position on the 8. If he makes a mistake and overcuts it, now the cue ball has much more speed down the tangent line. It'll come in here, and the right-hand spin will put him over in this area with a poor shot on the 8. Watch. Very excellent. That makes it an easy shot. But a lot going on this shot. You not only have to make the ball, you have to make it in the correct side of the pocket. You have to aim it the wrong side with that right-hand English. Very interesting shot. Mark did a super job again. If you're one of those amateur players that has a lot more trouble with inside English than you do with outside English, there's a good reason for it. We use outside English so much more often. Our brain gets used to adjusting for the deflection. So when we get to an inside English shot, we're not used to it, so we don't allow for the deflection. And if you're one of those amateur players that overcuts the ball when you use inside English, now you know why. Now we're going to talk about kicking and banking. The term kicking is generally used when we're banking the cue ball, whereas the term banking is used when we're banking an object ball. The first thing we're going to do is bank the cue ball. Give you some ideas about systems, a simple banking system, and how to adjust for different tables, primarily new cloth versus old cloth. So if you don't know about a one-rail banking system, here it is. If this cue ball is on this second diamond and I shoot straight across with no English, and it's imperative that you use no side spin on these shots. If I shoot straight across, that ball will come straight back. Now, if I shoot 4 inches to the left of that diamond, the cue ball should come back 8 inches to the left of this diamond. And if I shoot 1 full diamond to the left of this diamond, it should come back 2 diamonds to the left of this diamond. And some people always say, is the side pocket, is there a diamond there? Yes, there's a diamond there. So now I can put this ball here. I'll put the 4 ball there. Now Mark, in order to make the 4 ball, what we do is count diamonds. This is 0. 1, and a lot of people, I say count diamonds and they go 1, 2, 3, 4. No, 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 no. We want to know how far this is from this ball. This is 0, starting point. 1, 2, 3. What's half of 3? 1.5. So we go 1.5 straight across. So Mark's going to aim right there. Okay, now the point we have to make is the system for banking one rail to the mathematically correct system is this. If this ball is in front of diamond 4 is right where my finger is, then Mark has to hit the rail in front of diamond 2, which is right there. So, but in order to hit in front of diamond 2, he has to aim his stick about 2 inches past diamond 2. But this is mathematically correct. If the ball hits there, this angle is exactly the same as that angle. But on a new cloth, if he shoots where that 2 ball is, the ball will not go in. So what we're going to show you is, first we're going to show you what's correct mathematically, and then we're going to show you what works. So if Mark shoots there, you'll see that that ball does not do what it's supposed to. Okay? Now watch how the cue ball curves after it hits the rail and misses the object ball. The first 3 diamonds on a new cloth or an old cloth are always accurate enough to make the ball mathematically correct angles. So if Mark hits right there, that ball is on 3, and you just saw him do that before, we'll pull it down to 2, 0, 1, 2. If Mark hits in front of diamond 1, which is right about there, that ball should go in. Try it, Mark. Okay. Now, if Mark goes down to 4, you saw the ball hit way over here. And if he went down to 5, it would miss by even more. If he went down to 6 and hit in front of diamond 3, it would miss by this much. Now there's a reason for that, and that only happens on a new cloth. So we're going to show you why. As you saw when Mark shot those one-rail banks with the cue ball, they all hit way down here instead of where mathematically they should have gone. So why does a new cloth always make the ball go real long? If you ask some players, they'll say, well, it skids. Another player, they're not wrong. Another player will say, well, it slides. And they're both right, but we're going to show you exactly what happens. Remember, when you're shooting the cue ball one rail, you must shoot it above center to make the table consistent. The table may or may not be accurate, but it'll be consistent, and we'll show you why later. But right now, if I start with that cue ball, which is in front of diamond 4, and I hit in front of diamond 2, which is mathematically correct, this angle is exactly the same as that angle. Mathematically, this ball, the cue ball, should hit here and go straight at the 12 ball. But here's what happens. When you hit the ball above center, here it is rolling, you hit it perfect, it hits this rail perfect, and guess what? It bounces straight at the 12, except for one thing. A new cloth is so slippery, there's no chalk dust in the cloth and oil from hands in the cloth, so it's very slippery like an ice rink. Here's what happens to the 11. The 11 ball hits the rail and bounces straight at the 12, except it's so slippery, the overspin I put on it stays on it. So it comes off the rail with some of my overspin on, and guess what that does? It makes it turn south. Okay? That's why. And the farther you go down the table, the more it curves. And one of the reasons it curves more the further you go down the table is that once it comes in from a big angle, it's hitting the rail close to the axis of the spin, so the rail will rub off even less overspin. So more overspin stays on, the wider the angle, and it curves more. And as you saw, the first 3 diamonds are always accurate because the ball is coming pretty straight into the rail, so the rail rubs off enough spin so it doesn't curve. But as soon as we get past diamond 3 on a new cloth, it starts curving like crazy with that overspin staying on the ball after it hits this rail. Here's a point worth repeating. As you saw, when Mark shot from diamond 3 to diamond 1.5, the ball started curving a little bit, but it didn't curve enough to miss the ball. But once you get past diamond 3, it starts curving way too much to make the ball. When Mark shoots this bank from diamond 4, he's going to hit in front of diamond 2, and instead of the ball will start out coming right here. Then you'll see what that overspin does to that. You'll see the curve with this camera angle. And you can see the ball come off and curve. As you can see on this new cloth, the cue ball curves a lot after coming off the rail. But as the cloth wears and there's more chalk dust and skin oil in the cloth, it creates more and more friction when the cue ball hits the rail, so the ball starts curving less and less after coming off the rail. And on an old cloth, there's so much friction when the ball hits the rail rubs off all the overspin and doesn't curve at all. Now we're going to teach you to make the system work no matter what table you're playing on. And you start by putting the cue ball on the 4-2 track. And you can kind of look, if it's a new cloth without many wear marks where you rack the balls, it's going to go long usually. But to test it, try shooting right at the diamond, and if the cue ball goes here twice in a row, okay, now I know this table. It's a very new cloth. I have to aim I have to, any shot I shoot now, I'll figure out the diamonds, then I'll subtract a little bit. I'll subtract an inch or inch and a half, and you'll make any ball hanging in this pocket. If you shoot at the second diamond instead of in front of it, if you shoot at it and the ball comes here, you say, oh, okay, pretty old cloth. So on this table, I have to aim a little past the diamond. And then you can do the same thing from diamond 6. They will be consistent, but you can try a couple from diamond 6, shoot right at diamond 3 to start out with. If the ball hits way down here, okay, this is a new cloth. I got to back way up to here on my kicks. And if the ball hits short of the pocket, okay, this is pretty old cloth. I have to hit in front of diamond 6. So doing a couple shots from here and a couple shots from here, and you will make almost every one of those balls, no matter where the cue ball is on the table. Now, what we learned is that so far, all the banks we've shot, we're banking the cue ball, we take the distance between the balls, divide it in half, so 4 connects with diamond 2, and then we adjust for a new or old cloth. And once we learn that adjustment, we make this ball every single time. So these 2 balls, what we've done so far, are equidistant from that rail. That makes it easy. Just divide it in half, adjust for the new or old cloth. Now, the balls are not equidistant from that rail. So now what do? All the books that teach banking have systems that work great. But don't forget, those systems teach you to find the mathematically correct angle, which won't work on a new cloth. So some of the books say you take this angle and this angle, divide it where these angles intersect, and that's where you hit. And they're all correct, but they teach you the mathematically correct angle, which won't work on a new table. I'm saying that again, just so you understand that. So, but I think there's a little simpler system we can use. And I want you to see what you think of this system. We're going to come up with a new term now called a track. If the cue ball is here, and I want to make the 6, the cue ball is now on the 4 to 2 track. If the cue ball is here, the cue ball is now on the 1, 2, 3 to 1.5 track. It's always half. If I put the cue ball down here, the cue ball is on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 2.5 track. What if I put my stick on the 4 to 2 track and I see this picture? Wow, that's right on the 4 to 2 track. All I have to do is back up a little bit. Because it's a new cloth, I'll come very close to making that ball. Okay, now what if I put my stick on the 4 to 2 track and I see this picture? Now here's how we make this easy. Now we pretend there's a diamond every inch. So if there's a diamond every inch, let's call this, instead of 4 to 2, 40 to 20. So if I move over here, say 3 inches, and move over there, say 1.5 inches, whoa, that was a pretty good guess, wasn't it? So this ball is on the 40, about the 44 to 22 line. New cloth, back up a little bit. Let's take a look at this graphic. The first thing I had to do was find the closest track, and as you can see, it's the 4 to 2 track. But the cue ball's not right on the track, so now we do inches. And as you can see, the cue ball is on the 4 plus 4 inches to 2 plus 2 inches track. And now that it's a new cloth, I know I have to back up a little bit more to allow for the curve, and the ball goes in the hole. So it's so much easier than figuring out and dividing angles and so forth. Now there's a little trick to doing this. Now I have this shot. This ball's in my way. When we do this system, it's so simple. To learn this system, always start with your friend 4 to 2. This is your buddy. Always start here, then you'll never get lost. So 4 to 2, no good. Just say no good. We're going to keep going towards the cue ball till we find the closest track. Then we're going to do inches. Here's what it looks like. 4 to 2, no. Next track, 3, 1.5. No good. Next track, 2 to 1. Oh man, look at that. Just perfect. no adjustment down here. Make the ball every single time. So now I'm going to put the ball here. Here we go, 4-2, no good. Next track, 5, 2.5, no good. Next track, 6-3. I went a little bit past the ball, so now I got to go back that way and do inches. 1 inch here, 1/2 inch there. Not quite enough. Another 1/2 inch here, 1/4 inch there. There it is. New cloth, back up a little bit. Okay, take a look at this graphic. We found the closest track was 6-3, but the cue ball wasn't quite on it, so we have to move back towards the cue ball. So we found that the cue ball is on a track 1.5 inches minus 6 to 3/4 inch minus 3. That's the cue ball track. And being this is a new cloth, we have to back up another inch or 1.5 inches to allow for the curve, and the ball goes in. We'll see what happens right there. This is so simple to learn, and it works so good. Let's try another one. Start with your friend, 4-2, no good. 3 to 1.5, bingo, there's the closest track. To get on the ball, I'm going to move down about 1 inch here, 1/2 inch there, bingo. Right there. And make sure you shoot those above center. But once you learn this easy system, it's so fast and you never miss one. You never miss one. Okay, now we're going to show you some graphics to show you how these banks work and how you can figure out where the correct spot is to hit by finding tracks. And we're going to stretch the table out now so there's more room between the diamonds. We have the diamonds numbered now, and we're going to show you how they connect. Here we show a 4-2 track shot. If the cue ball is in front of diamond 4 and you shoot to diamond 2, the correct angle goes into the pocket. But any ball on that 4-2 track is the same as if it started by the pocket. That's how we bank balls when they're not on the opposite rail. When they're out in the middle of the table, it used to be pretty tough to figure out where to shoot, but now we use the term tracks. And you can see all 3 of those cue balls are on the 4-2 track. Now we're going to show you a lot more and show you how this works. I'm going to show you this graphic, and here we have a track system. I call them tracks. The first one, the diamond 1, the white line is a 1 to 1/2 track. If the cue ball is anywhere on that 1 to 1/2 line and you hit a 1/2 diamond, it should go in the corner pocket. Now let's go to the red line coming from diamond 2. Diamond 2 lines up with diamond 1, and that is a track called the 2 to 1 track. And the yellow track is the 3 to 1.5 track. When you get to the side pocket, the white line, 4 connects with 2. These are all connecting diamonds for one rail banks or kicks. And diamond 5 connects with diamond 2.5. Now we're going to get into more detail on these tracks. Now here's a shot where the black ball is interfering with pocketing with the red ball. So now what we're going to do is find the closest track. And we're going to start out by looking at the 1 to 1/2 track. In this case, you can see the cue ball is nowhere near the 1 to 1/2 track. So we move down 1 number. Okay, now we're showing the 2 to 1 track, and you can see the 2 to 1 track is a lot closer to the cue ball. We're getting closer. So now we're going to see if the 3 to 1.5 track is closer yet. Yes, it is. So now we have found the closest track. So now our job is to move back towards the cue ball. We're going to move 2 inches at a time. Now we've got minus 2 inches on 3, minus 1 inch at 1.5. And you can see that's still not in line with the cue ball. So we'll move back 2 more inches. Now we're at diamond 3 minus 4 inches and diamond 1.5 minus 2 inches. And we have found the track of the cue ball. Now striking 1.5 minus 2 inches will pocket the object ball. As you can see, sometimes our lines point from in front of the diamond to in front of the diamond. That is mathematically correct. Sometimes our lines point from diamond directly at the diamond. That is easier because every table needs a little adjustment because of the new cloth, old cloth, and humidity. It's easier to go diamond to diamond than in front of to in front of. When we did the kicks across the table, now the same rules apply for the length of the table. First we have to make the 7 ball. We're playing 9 ball. And the only way we can go is down to that rail. So now we'll find the closest track. Remember, this is 0, this is 1 diamond, and if the cue ball was here, we'd have to hit a half a diamond. So if the cue ball was here, it would be on the 1 to a half track. It's not. So we'll move over a diamond here. If the cue ball was here, it would have to go to the number 1 diamond down there, so this would be the 2 to 1 track. Cue ball's not there. Let's go to the 3 to 1 1/2 track. Ooh, that is the closest track. So now we do our inches. Remember, wherever a ball is on the table, it's on a 2 to 1 track somewhere. You just have to find it. So this cue ball is not quite to 3 to 1 1/2. So I'm going to guess 2 inches here and 1 inch there. And boy, look at this. We're right on that ball. So the cue ball is on this track. 3 minus 2 inches, 1 1/2 minus 1 inch. So Mark and we put the chalk there so you could see where the half a diamond was. If you shoot at the left edge or 1 inch from the middle of that 1 1/2 diamond, see what happens. And it's very important that you don't put any side spin on these. Very good. So whether you're going across the table or back and forth the long way, the system is the same. Find the closest track and then pretend there's a diamond every inch and go back until you get on a track across your cue ball to halfway to the half track there. So this ball that we just shot, again, was 0, 1, 2, 3 to 1 1/2. That's there. And then we went back 2 inches here and 1 up there. We ended up right on that ball. So that's where that cue ball is, and Mark, as you can see, made the shot. So this is neat to just find the closest track and do inches. So much faster than guessing. Never guess. So as you can see, a new cloth is extremely inaccurate when you lag the cue ball 1 rail. And one thing I have to point out is when we did the 6 to 3 bank, and mathematically you shoot in front of, but we found out on this table we have to back up about 6 or 7 inches. And so that's what you have to do if the cue ball's back here. But as you get closer and closer and closer to that rail, then you back up less and less and less. And when you get real close, you just back up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is put the ball right on the 6 to 3 track, and you can see and I'm lining up dot to dot. And we also talked about that before. I want to reaffirm that. Mathematically correct is in front of to in front of. But it's much easier to go diamond to diamond because you're adjusting on almost every table anyway. So it's better to start out diamond to diamond and then adjust for new or old cloth. So in this case, Mark, instead of Mark aiming right at 6, he's going to aim maybe a half inch to the right or inch to the right of 6 because it's a new cloth and he's close. So you want to try that, Mark? Okay, very good. Now I want you to do that once more. Now the ball is right on the 6 to 3 track, diamond to diamond, but it's a new cloth, so we backed up, an inch, inch and a quarter, correct? Okay, now all the time we've been doing these cue ball kicks, we've been saying that when you shoot above center, the table is very consistent. You adjust, once you adjust, you make every single one. But some people get in the habit of hitting the cue ball in the middle. And when they do that, the cue ball starts out sliding without any overspin. And if that cue ball gets to the rail with no overspin, I'm going to have Mark aim exactly the same place. And he's going to make the cue ball arrive here sliding with no overspin. Watch what happens. This is what happens. Try it again even softer. And maybe a hair lower. And that's what happens. So, and here's the neat thing. If Mark would have hit it from here a little below center, it would have slid, picked up overspin, and made the ball. It would have hit the rail with overspin. But if he's close and hits a little below center, it'll get to the rail with no overspin and come way up here. So hitting them above center is very important to make the table consistent. Not accurate, consistent. As you saw, when Mark shot this 6-3 angle bank and he shot it above center, it went here. When he shot it below center, it went here. So if that cue ball doesn't have overspin when it hits that rail, it goes short on a new or an old cloth. So now, what you just learned by that cue ball doing this, what you just learned is why people miss so many banks. Here's the rule that you must remember. When an object ball is close to the rail or on the rail, or if you just shoot a bank hard, the bank will come short of the pocket. In other words, if you're banking the 8 across side, this is short, this is long. And most people watching this video, when you bank, if you're not a real good banker, 9 out of 10 of your banks are short of the pocket. And the reason is your brain sees the correct angle. All the old books say 10 degrees in, 10 degrees out, but that only applies sometimes. When the ball is close to the rail, on the rail, or if you shoot hard, it doesn't apply. They go short. So that's what the pros do. The pros know that. And when you shoot a bank soft, on a new cloth it might go way long, on an old cloth it might go in the hole. A lot of variables if you roll a bank soft. But if you shoot a bank hard, they always go short. So pros know this. And when pros shoot most of their banks, they hit them at a very crisp speed, because then they know that an old cloth plays almost the same as a new cloth. So that's why pros seldom roll their banks unless they're playing a roll your bank game like one pocket or something like that. So when they can, they'll shoot them crisp, and they play them way down here to make them in the hole. So now it's nice to know that the easiest bank on the table is the one within a diamond of the pocket. This bank or this bank in the cross corner like this, those are the easiest banks to make. And all you have to do to learn to make 7 or 8 out of 10 is aim where you used to. We know you used to be short, and cut them a little more. Once you realize how much you have to overcut it, you actually have to play the bank to go here. Then it shortens up and goes here. So once you learn how much to overcut these banks, you can make 7 or 8 out of 10 easy when they're close to the hole like this. So very important bank to know, and it's nice to know you can make a very high percentage of these banks. So now we're going to get into banking object balls, which is completely different from rolling the cue ball, because we very seldom roll object balls soft when we're trying to bank them. We hit banks on the firm side, so they almost always go short of the pocket, which is why you know that most of the banks you miss are short of the pocket. Now we're going to show you how much you have to overcut them to make them. Now we're going to have Mark demonstrate how you have to make banks look. You have to play them as if they're going to go past the hole in order for them to go in the hole. When you have a bank where the cue ball is straight out like this, 9 out of 10 of these banks are missed short for 2 reasons. Number 1, ball has no overspin, which shortens it up. Number 2, just the cue ball cutting across the ball a little bit this way puts a little bit of left-hand spin on that ball that also makes it want to go back that way. So you have 2 things going on against you when you have the cue ball straight out. So now I'm going to have Mark, I'm going to set up some banks here. We want right between this point and this point. Now this 9 ball is right on the 1 to 1/2 track. So now instead of coming in from 1, we're going to come way down here in from like 1 1/3. We're going to add a whole lot there. The true angle of this bank is way down there. Watch what happens when Mark hits this bank dead center. Okay, and it gets worse now. Watch this. I'm going to put this cue right on the 2-to-1 track. Now watch what happens. There's the track. We're going to move down over a half a diamond long here. Now that ball should hit way down here according to mathematics. Watch where it goes. Now, it's amazing how long you have to play those banks, isn't it? Now we're going to put this ball on a 3-to-1.5 track. Right there. And we're going to put the cue ball way down here, almost, boy, that's 2/3, 3/4 of a diamond long. Wow, look at this. The ball should go way down here. And notice, this is why amateurs and good players will also miss banks short. They don't realize how long they have to make banks go. So that gives you an idea of how crooked you got to hit them to make them. And this kind of shows all the variables that are involved when you bank object balls. If the cue ball and the object ball are set so they're right on a track called a 6-to-3 track, mathematically that ball should go right in that corner pocket. And if we mark these balls and put a new cloth on the table, put the balls on and marked them, and then we shot this ball with a machine that never made a mistake, and we hit it slow, that ball would pick up overspin, hit where it was supposed to hit, and the overspin would pull it way down here. If we shot the same shot, brand new cloth, hard, it would hit here, it would hit short. And then as the table started to wear from people playing on it, a few months later, if you shot soft, instead of hitting here, it would hit closer to the pocket. And if you shot hard, it would still hit short. Then as the cloth got more and more worn, if you shot soft, it would go in the hole. If you shot hard, it would go short. So why do you think pros shoot most of their shots at a crisp speed? Because when you shoot banks at a crisp speed, like you saw Mark shoot those shots, a new cloth acts almost the same as an old cloth. So by shooting hard, they're always short, so you have to always add a little bit over there so the ball goes in the hole. But when you shoot firm, it doesn't matter too much whether it's a new cloth or an old cloth. Whereas if you shoot soft, a new cloth will hit way down here, an old cloth will hit way over here. It's a huge difference when you shoot soft. Okay? This is going to be a fun knowledge shot. The reason it's a knowledge shot is because it takes a lot of knowledge to understand how you can put the 8-ball in the same spot and make it hit the rail in 3 different places and still go in the side pocket. I got this 8-ball on a track from 0, 1 to a half, and I'm just going to show you that Mark is going to shoot this bank 3 different ways to show you some of the knowledge involved in banking object balls. So I got the one move, so I think he can just squeak it in here and make it here if he shoots very soft, no English, just hits it dead center. Try that, Mark. Okay, hey, good shot. Now we're going to do the same shot. I got it in exactly the same place. And we're going to move the cue ball, the 1 ball, way down here. Now there's absolutely no angle to make that shot. The angle is way down here. But pros know if they cut across the ball this way, they can rub a little left-hand spin on it, so when it hits that rail, it comes in the pocket. So I'll put this exactly where it was. And Mark, if you just cut across it a little bit. Okay, very nice. Now, watch this. I'm going to put the ball in the same place, and I'm going to move the 1 ball way down to here. Right there. Now, the true angle is way down here. But now again, a pro knows if he cuts across this way, it rubs a little right hand spin that'll stiffen it up off the rail, and if he shoots hard, it'll come shorter. So he can shoot this 8-ball in a completely third different place and make it in the side pocket. Okay, as you can see, we put the 8-ball in the same place and we hit it 3 different places on the rail depending on how hard we shot and which side we cut across it. So that's knowledge that all those pro bankers know about, and that's why they bank so good. They can make shots that other people don't even think about. What I see when people break is I see a long bridge, which is good, and I see them hang on way back on the cue, and many players follow through clear to the side pocket, move a lot of their body when they break, and I think there's a better way. When you hold the cue back real far, normally, or back farther, which some people do. I read an old book that said the farther you hang back, the farther you can follow through. And it makes no sense. I'll tell you why. When you swing this arm, if I wanted to hit something hard, could you hit it harder here or here? Here, up here. Mm-hmm. So when somebody hangs on way back on the cue, here's what I see on Q-tip speed when they're hanging on way back here and following through to the side pocket. I see this. We'll talk about Q-tip speed. Now watch. Here's 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 0. So because they're not using any of this muscle here before they get to the ball, the Q-tip is going maximum speed here, but they hit it here. So by choking up a good fist, 5 or 6 inches, now the cue stick will go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 by the time it gets here. You're using some of this muscle instead of this muscle. Before you get to the ball, the follow through won't be as far, but it's always more accurate. And in most cases, when people get used to it, they can shoot harder without all the body movement. So immediately they park Whitey. Whitey doesn't even hit a rail. Much more often when people learn this break. And as you know, even if at a pro level you scratch once or twice in the side, you can't win the match. Okay? So let's try that. Shoot a few right in that pocket. And oh, I forgot to tell you something. The secret of it, remember we talked about timing? Timing of the swing is letting the cue come to a flowing stop, then accelerate. Notice there was no pause. The cue slows to a stop, accelerate. That's perfect timing. So when you do that on the break, let the cue come to a stop and then explode. That's where you get a lot of power from. And Mark, one thing I want to point out, when we see people breaking like this, where the timing is bad because they make it stop back here like that, they can shoot hard, but they would always shoot harder if they learn to let it stop and then shoot hard. Mm-hmm. They'd always shoot harder. Okay?
Chin up a little higher.
Lift your head up a little higher on the break. That loosens up your shoulder and gives you more power. Now watch how that cue flows to a stop, then explodes out of there. Excellent, excellent. Very simple, extremely accurate break. Much more accurate than moving your body a lot like this. Much more accurate. And for that ½ mile an hour that you might gain by moving your body is more than made up for in accuracy. Remember, we talked about timing. Timing is that transition from the back swing to the front swing. And if you go back and make it stop, that is very poor timing. If you go back and wait, that's not good timing. The best timing is the same way you toss a ball, a lazy toss. When the arm stops, you accelerate. So if you don't stop, if you stop quickly, that's not the timing is off. If you go back and wait too long, the timing is off. Perfect timing is when it stops accelerate. And the timing is the best if it flows to a stop rather than jerks back, okay? So watch the Q-tip. The Q-tip tells you how smooth his right arm is working. Excellent, excellent. And putting the tip on the cloth like that, nice, simple break, and accuracy goes up right away in everybody that we've taught this to. You folks watch the end of that backswing. That's where that power and timing comes from, letting that cue flow to a stop. So you can see Mark's break, the cue ball had quite a bit of speed on it over in this direction. So the next break, if he did the same thing, he'd say, okay, I want to hit that ball a little more flush. So this time, the third time, I'll aim an eighth of an inch to the right of center. So pros are always tweaking their break to control the cue ball. And when there's a tournament, whether it's amateurs or pros playing, especially the pros, the crowd watches to see if the 9-ball or 8-ball goes in. The pro player is watching the cue ball. He's thinking about controlling the cue ball. And if that cue ball goes right, 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 he'll start changing it. If that cue ball goes left, 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 he'll start fixing it. If the cue ball has too much follow and runs down to the end of the table 2 or 3 in a row, he'll aim a little lower on the cue ball so it doesn't do that. If the cue ball comes screaming back with backspin 2 or 3 in a row, he's put that tip up a little higher so it doesn't do that. So pros are always tweaking their break to try to control the white ball. And as we talked about, whether it's a 9-ball break or an 8-ball break, the object is, especially a 9-ball, to no matter where you put the cue ball, whether it's shooting off the rail or in the middle, most pros are in here somewhere, many are off the rail like this. The object is to make the cue ball bounce straight back and not hit a rail, because as everybody knows, scratching is, especially at the pro level, extremely costly. And that's where this break that we teach people now has less chance for scratching, is always more accuracy with that less body movement. Okay, so wherever you want to put it, Mark, put it there, show us that timing of that swing. Remember, when you're breaking 9-ball or 10-ball, you always want the cue ball to come back towards you and never end up at the foot of the table, because the 1-ball almost always ends up at the head of the table near you. And notice on this break that Mark put the cue ball at the wrong end of the table. Very nice.
It was quite an exhibition she put on at my expense. And while the jukebox rocked, she was cutting me up.
I get a kick out of it sometimes when a player will say, I'm having trouble breaking. I hit him so hard I jumped the table a lot. And I try to smile, and I know that usually it's not the power that makes you jump the table. It's one of 2 flaws in how you're breaking. The most important one is putting your thumb under the cue so the butt of the cue gets elevated. When you shoot like this, that cue ball just bounces down the table, and if you happen to hit that 1-ball on one of those bounces, it's way off the table. That's the most common way that people jump the table. The other way they jump the table, especially when you're trying to hit the front ball on a break, as in 9-ball or 8-ball, is their accuracy is not good, and they'll aim at the middle of that ball, but if they hit a half a ball hard, that cue ball will jump the table. The reason is, even with a level cue, the cue ball jumps down the table. And if we put a quarter here and you broke with just a little bit of power with a pretty level cue like this, you would never touch that quarter. It would jump right over it. And on some tables in a billiard room, you can see the landing mark where the balls land when people break from here. The soft breakers, medium breakers, and the hard breakers. The ball jumps, leaves the table way down and just lands right before it gets to the one on the guys that really break hard. And if they hit the half of that ball, if they don't hit that ball square, that cue ball's right off the table. So there's two things that can create frequent jumps. The first one is elevation. That'll create the most. Second is not hitting the front ball square. So you have to observe what you're doing if you jump the table a lot. Easy to fix. Because jumping a table could cost you a game very easily. So this should help a lot.
Well, I saw her in a pool hall, pocketing an 8-ball away.
Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about safety play, and especially how the pros play safe. 3 big parts. Number 1, defensively, you want to have some blocker balls, some barrier balls. If my opponent was shooting the 8-ball and I got the cue ball here near these obstacles, he would have to kick to a cushion to make the object ball or make even a legal hit, let alone make the ball. Secondly, we like to use the rails. If I leave the object ball near the rail and the cue ball down table, that makes pocketing this ball very difficult because you only have half a pocket over here to cut it into, or you have to play a bank shot. Conversely, if I get the cue ball on the rail, that makes cueing the ball very limited. You can only hit it high, accuracy is diminished, you can only use a short swing, so that's a predicament. Another example of a safety might be if you had the cue ball left on top of these barrier balls if your opponent was trying to shoot that. That makes bridging over this very awkward, very inconvenient. And thirdly, I would say distance. You always want distance between these two balls. So when the 8-ball's on the opposite end of the table and the cue ball's here, even if you leave a shot, it's very difficult for your opponent to pocket. If they make this shot, shake their hand. They're a great player. You seldom want to leave cue ball and the object ball very near each other. That's not adequate to play safety play against a good quality player. It'll work at the league, but it will not work as you go up the ranks of quality players. Circumstance that I might have to play safe. I'm the solid balls. I don't want to give my opponent a cheap win. So I'm going to play one defensive shot and block him from hitting the 8-ball. Now it's very sensitive, it's speed sensitive. I have to hit this super soft. And to hit a ball super soft, super short backswing. Just roll over, rub up on the 7-ball, contact the cushion, and now he has to kick away from that. And hopefully I'll earn either ball in hand or a better shot. It's a great safety that Jerry showed me. In this circumstance, the 8-ball's frozen on the end rail, very near the corner pocket. I used to try to play safe by going thin off of this side of the 8, and that would always leave the 8-ball near the pocket. No good. If I tried to go off the inside of the 8, scratch. No good. So this one, double kiss the 8 with just a little bit of backspin, and this really only works real well when you're real close to the 8-ball. A little bit of backspin and just a slight bit off center, and then we get distance, rails, and makes it very tough for your opponent. You do not have to hit this very hard either. Now here's an interesting safety play that comes up once in a while. I have the 4-ball there. So now I'm going to employ my blockers. I have 3 balls here, and they actually form a wall. So once I rub off the 4, as long as I get the cue ball far enough down table, I'll be able to employ these blockers to deny direct access to the 4-ball. Now as you can see, once it comes past the 9-ball here, unless your opponent's really good with the jump cue, you got them. We got quite a wall of balls here to deny direct access, and if we move them up like this, you'd see I have quite a margin of error, even though they're distributed like this. Here's a safety situation that comes up. Not an easy bank shot on the 8. I want to play safe. So we're going to play the power stop shot as opposed to the super soft stop shots that we were teaching you earlier in the video that offers a lot more opportunity for margin of error. The reason to play the power stop shot is that it takes all the energy out of the cue ball, puts it all in the 8-ball, so I can travel the 8-ball 3 or 4 cushions around the table, yet keep the cue ball safely behind the 9. Center ball hit, pretty firm speed, and a very square hit on the 8 so the cue ball does not leak out. And that shot will win you a lot of games. Here's an interesting safety play. It involves both distance, rails, and barriers, all in trio here. I'm going to play a stop shot on the 5, move the 5 ball a long ways down the table, leave the cue ball right here on the cushion, and employ the 9 ball as my barrier. Get out your wallet, sucker. When was the last time that you practiced your safeties? When it came up in a game? Too late. Here's Jerry's great system to practice safety play. With a real short backswing, we try to roll the cue ball down to the 4 ball and have the cue ball remain within 3 inches of that. Super short backswing, still a follow through. Hopefully the table's level. And that was well within 3 inches. If you do that, maybe the 1 ball next, scatter out some balls, the 8th ball after that, do that for 5 minutes and you really improve your speed control.
If your opponent ever leaves you this shot, many amateurs play this shot, leave their opponent this shot, and the opponent comes right back and does the same thing. But if you leave this shot for a good player, the good player will leave you a table length away. You will not like it. This is not a good place to leave your opponent. Here's why. Your opponent will leave you 9 feet away from that shot if it's a 9-foot table. So beware of this safety. Another safety that's very important to learn is when you have an 8 ball here and a cue ball here. Now with this angle, it's a pretty tough bank in here. So what a good player might do is, again, leave you 9 feet. He'll try to bank the ball right here and leave you way far away. So just hit the ball thin, overcut it, and you will be a long ways away from that ball. That's a good safety to master, and it's very easy. You're going to learn something now about the 30-degree rule. It's kind of a new concept that works great. If you have an angle shot and you shoot the cue ball above center so it has overspin when it arrives at the 12, if you hit 1/4 of the 12 ball or a half of the 12 ball or 3/4 of the 12 ball, the cue ball goes the same place. And it goes 30 degrees. And if you spread your fingers wide, that's about 30 degrees. So if I want to see if the cue ball is going to break up those balls, all I have to do is make this finger line up with the 2 balls, not the pocket. This finger lines up with the 2 balls. I put it right up to the ball, and this line goes right back to the cue ball. There's 30 degrees. So in this case, I can't hit those balls on this shot. So watch, you'll see that you cannot hit those balls with this shot. Okay? Now, the shot is here. Now, I wonder if I will scratch on this shot in the side pocket. And I'll move this up here like this. Now, I take this finger and line it up between the 2 balls and I push it right up to the 12. Now, my middle finger is in line with these balls, and the 30-degree line says I should hit just short. The finger is pointing right about there. That is 30 degrees. Let's see what happens. I think it should be a little short of the side pocket. Yes. Okay. Now, here's another. This really comes in handy when you're playing this game. Here's another shot where you might wonder, will I scratch in that pocket? So now I use this finger to line up the two balls, and there's 30 degrees. That looks like a scratch. Now that ball's going to come very close to going in the hole if Mark shoots above center. Okay, so this little 30-degree thing can save you some agony. It works very well. There is a shot in pool called throw shots, and we're going to show you what throw shots are and how to make them and how to be consistent. As you can see in this demonstration, both the combination is lined up about 3 inches up the rail, and the throw shot is lined up about 3 inches up the rail. So in order to make the 4 ball, I've got to hit the 3 so it hits the 4 a little on my right to make the ball. But on this throw shot, it is a friction shot. It is unlike a combination. Here's what happens on a throw shot. Okay, when you have 2 balls frozen, or in some cases close together, it's called a throw shot. And even though when you saw the balls lined up a little bit to the right of the pocket, that we can influence where the one ball goes. We can push it offline a little bit with friction. And here's how that works. If I strike the cue ball 45 degrees to the line of the 2 balls, there's 90 degrees, there's 0 degrees, there's 45 degrees, and 45 degrees is roughly the center of this ball, the center of this ball lined up with the edge of the one ball. That angle gives the most friction between the 6 and the 1 ball. So here's what happens in slow motion when you strike 2 frozen balls at 45 degrees here. At the moment of impact, the 6 ball is crushed between this ball and this ball. So it squirts straight out this tangent line. And as the 6 starts to move this way, the friction between them pulls the 1 offline about 1 inch per foot in the summer, a little more in the winter when it's dry. As you can see, the outside of these balls are aiming a good 3 or 4 inches up the rail. So I want to throw the 1 ball to the left the maximum amount. So to do that, I have to make the 6 push it there. So I'm going to show you where I'm going to hit. There's dead center. Now I'm going to move around about 45 degrees, and what I'm looking at is center of this ball, and the edge of the 1 ball. So that's where I have to make the cue ball go to get the maximum effect of a throw. So sometimes I tell people that when I'm teaching this, to make the cue stick go around like this until you're aiming the middle of the 6 at the edge of the 1 ball. So that tells me where I have to make the 6 go in order to make the 1 ball. I have to make the 6 go in that direction. And here's what it looks like. I'm going to cut the 6 down in that direction. Watch the 1 ball. Now, I'll set up these 2 balls. Now, as you can see, both balls are to the left of the hole. So you can always work backwards and you'll never make a mistake. The 6 has to go to my right, therefore the 3 has to go to my right in order to push the 6 to the right. So I want to know what direction do I shoot the 3. So I lay my cue across the middle of the 3 and the edge of the 6. That's where I have to make that direction. I have to make the 3 ball go. And watch the 6 get pushed offline into the pocket. Those are called throw shots. Now we'll show you some more examples. Sometimes those throw shots get complex, as in a game where the balls might be clustered a little bit, and you might have a shot like this, and you got 2 balls here, and you got the cue ball here with a shot like this. So as you can see, the 15 is pointed right here again. So the secret is to work backwards. The 15 has to go that way. In order for the 15 to go that way, the 4 has to go that way. So which one of these balls will push the 4 that way? The 6. So all I have to do is shoot the 12 into the 6. So by working backwards, we threw it almost enough to make it. But if they're not frozen, sometimes they won't throw. Even balls that are frozen on occasion won't throw. If there's oil or humidity, high humidity, they throw less. And if you would touch your finger and put the balls together with a wet spot, it won't throw at all. That used to be an old dirty trick some people would do. But I'll set up another variation here. If you see something like this, no matter where you hit the 13, it won't change. The 15 will miss. Let's say that you have this. Now let's work backwards. The 15 has to go that way. Therefore, the 4 has to go that way. Therefore, I got to hit the 4 ball on this side. So that's how you work backwards and never make a mistake. Now, sometimes they can get more complex when you have a shot like this. These 2 balls, boy, this new cloth is so slippery. Now watch this. You might have a couple of balls that are, you might have the rack, a bad rack or something, and the balls are sitting so that they're like this, and you're up here. And you might say, well, that 1 ball has to go to the right, therefore the 9 has to go to the right, so I'd like to hit the 9 here, but I can't because the 6 is in the way. Well, let's look at the 4 ball. The 4 ball has to go to the right, therefore the 12 has to go to the right. But if the cue ball's here, it's pretty tough for me to hit the 12 way over here. It would be too thin, I couldn't shoot hard enough. But if I hit half of the 13, then it bangs into the 12, I can make the 4 by hitting the 13 first. As long as I get over here on this 45-degree angle, I can push that 4 ball to that side. So what I'll do is just, well, I'll move the cue ball, but I'll hit the 13 first and make the 4 ball. Okay, so pros are always looking for those dead ones, those throw shots. Here's another little trick you have to know about throw shots. Here's a shot that comes up for every amateur. There's 2 balls pointing straight at the hole, and the amateur, not knowing about throw shots, might hit the one straight on, which will push both balls to the right. Let's see what happens. And the amateur says, whoa, what happened? That was straight in the hole. And he missed the ball. So what he has to know is, when you have 2 balls pointed straight in the hole, like this, and you want to make it, you have to make the cue ball put the 6 in the hole, otherwise you'll miss the 1. You got to have a straight. If you hit here, both balls, the 1 ball will go that side. If you're over here and hit here, the 1 ball will hit that side of the hole. So no matter where you are here, you have to hit the 6 as if you were trying to make the 6. Then the 1 ball will go straight ahead. Okay? I'm going to show you another thing about throw shots that you must know. The key ball, when 2 balls are frozen and lined up, and you can see these are lined up pretty far to the left of the hole, the key ball is the 3rd one, whether it's here or here or here. And if it's here, the 3rd ball is here. Let's say that they have a shot like this. Now, it is impossible to make the 1 ball, because no matter where I hit the 9, it's still hitting the 3 and the 1 dead center. So the 3rd ball is the key. What if I have this shot? Now I have options. I can hit the 3 on this side. It'll throw both balls that way. I don't want that. So I want to hit the 9, which will throw both balls that way. And sometimes it gets complex back here, but you have to figure out that 3rd ball is the key to pushing the 1 ball to the left or to the right. Another thing you should know, in a bigger angle, it throws less. At less of an angle, the ball moves over a lot less. If you shoot hard at the maximum throw angle, the harder you shoot, the less it throws. If you want to throw it a long ways, the softer you shoot, the more the 3 will push that ball to the right. So that 3rd ball might be camouflaged. Now we got this shot. We got to determine which one is the key ball. This one, if I hit the 15, it'll push them both that way. We don't want that. So I've got to hit the 9, which will push them both that way. Now we'll show you a lot more examples. Remember when I've said before on throw shots, the third ball is the key ball. The third ball is what controls that 3 ball going left or right of the line of the 2 balls. So in this case, you can see the balls are aimed right about here. So the 3 ball has to go to my right. Therefore, I'm going to come over here about 45 degrees. So these are lined up center, center edge, and I'll shoot pretty soft, and that 3 get pushed in. Now, what if the cue ball is up against that ball? Now, I've said all along the third ball is the key, but in this case, the Q-tip is the key. So all I have to do is use the same formula. I come around here till I'm aiming at the edge of the 3 and just follow through very soft. It'll push the ball in the hole, and I'll get position on the 10 ball. Before, when I shot the shot, we just used the Q-tip as the third thing to force the 9 into the pocket. Now we can fool the 9 ball into thinking we're going that way. And yet we're going to aim the wrong way. Now if I hit this cue ball in the middle here, it would push the 9 further offline. But what I'm going to do is fool the 9 into thinking I'm going that way by using a lot of left-hand spin. So the 9 will feel more of this pressure this way than it does pressure this way if I use enough spin. So I'm fooling the 9 ball. And I get position on the 10 ball. This is another example of a throw shot using spin on the cue ball to throw the object ball. As you can see, we barely just don't have quite enough room to shoot the 3 in that pocket. So we're going to use the 11 for the cue ball so you can see the spin. And up until a year or 2 ago, almost every player would use maximum spin to try to throw that ball in the hole. But recently it's been proven that just a minor amount of spin throws it farther than a lot of spin. Also, the slower you shoot, the more effect that spin has on the object ball. So when Mark shoots his shot, watch how little spin he puts on the ball to throw the 3 to my right. Just a very small amount of spin throws the object ball further than a lot of spin. And slow speed is what is effective in throwing balls. Normal or high speed, the balls won't throw hardly at all.
She hadn't been beat, but it's a fine line between victory and defeat.
Here's another example of a high-speed stop shot where you have to shoot very hard. You have a shot like this, and you want to get position on this 8 ball. You can't follow, you can't draw, so we want a high-speed stop shot. A stop shot on this angle goes straight down the tangent line, hits the rail, and comes straight out. Any overspin will pull it forward, any backspin will pull it back. So this ball has to arrive here with no overspin. So he's going to, because it's so close, he's going to hit it right in the middle, and it'll slide here, go down the tangent line, and come straight out for the 8. Very difficult shot. A high-speed stun shot or stop shot with an angle. Excellent. And if the angle, if he was even straighter, he'd have to shoot much harder. Remember speed trade-off? He's hitting at 95% full. So if he hits at 10 miles an hour, it would only have a half a mile an hour speed left on it. So he has to, now it's straighter in, he'll have to shoot harder yet to get the cue ball out for the 8. Oh, that's not on the rail, Mark. There you go. Beautiful. Okay, now the same applies if it's like this. Okay, now it's off the rail, but now you'll see the cue ball go down the tangent line, hit the rail, and come out. Perfect. Now, here's the other side of that stop shot. Now we're going to make it perfectly straight right here. The balls are pointed right there. So if Mark just shoots it over here very hard, he can also get it out with a stop shot in this direction. And the secret here again is do not touch that rail or it will wobble in the hole. Excellent. Talk about miscuing. Sometimes when we try to put a lot of spin on the ball, we will miscue. Now it makes a funny sound, the cue squirts off to the side, and that can be caused by not enough chalk on the tip isn't rounded properly, or you're not handling the cue very good and back. So we'll show you what that looks like. I'm sure most pool players know, but it makes a funny sound like this. Okay? So when you do miscue, whenever you miscue, look at your tip. Most amateurs just chalk up without looking at the tip, and they miss something huge. Anytime you miscue, there's a big brown mark right on your tip. And you got to find that brown mark and make sure it's covered with chalk before you shoot another shot. Extremely important to look at your tip if you miscue.
Well, I saw her in a pool hall, pocketing an 8-ball away.
Let's learn something about split hit. On a shot like this, you can see it's very difficult to make the 8. And when you're playing 8-ball, you got to hit the 8-ball first or it's a foul. So, and for years, people didn't understand. Well, somebody would blast at it and people couldn't tell which ball they hit first. So now there's just a great way to tell which ball you hit first. Even if you're across the room, you can tell which ball the person hit first if he's even trying to hit between them. So when you shoot a shot like this where you have to almost aim between them to make this ball, you're aiming at my finger, okay? And if you shoot on the way through the ball, I remove this 8-ball, and you hit the 12, the cue ball will go this way. Well, that's the answer, because if you touch the 12 just a millisecond before the 11, the cue ball will make an abrupt right turn. And if you got draw on it, it'll just go to the right and draw. If you hit the 8 a hair first, which is a good hit, the cue ball will go to the left. So that's how you tell on a shot like this which one you hit first. If you hit the 8 first, you go that way, the cue ball. If you hit the 12 first, it'll go this way. Mark, you want to step in here and shoot this, but instead of trying to make the 8, I want you to try to get a split hit. If he does, the cue ball will just stay on this line. But you see the cue ball went to his left. That means he hit the 8 first. That's how easy it is to tell. And it is very, very difficult to get a split hit. And an old sucker shot they used to set up was this shot. They'd freeze 3 balls here, and then they'd make a wager on how long it took you to get a split hit to make the 13 in the side. And it is extremely difficult, about 1 out of 40, okay? There is a way to make this shot more often, and that is to put the cue ball here and just hit the 8 super thin. And by the time the cue ball gets from the 8 to the 12, the 13 has been pushed out to here, and it'll go in. Now you can make this shot very often by putting the cue ball over here. But to put the cue ball here and try to make the 13, it is extremely difficult. Like I said, about 1 out of 40. There's another shot that comes up that's difficult to call a good hit or a bad hit. And that is a shot like this, where you're cutting where you're cutting the 12 in here. Now, if you tickle the 8 first, the 8 will go out at 90 degrees to this angle or less. If you hit the 12 first and get a good hit, now it'll hit the 8 and the 8 will go back more than 90 degrees, which means you got a good hit on this ball. So, Mark, if you'd shoot this for us here. Now, he's trying to make the 12 on the side and try to miss the 8 and make the 12. If he gets a good hit on the 12, the 8 will go backwards. Watch. The 8 went backwards. That means it's a good hit. Now, if he hits the 8 first, same exact shot. If he tickles the 8 first, this angle about 90 degrees is here. If it goes on this side, then he got a bad hit and hit the 8 ball first. He hit the 8 ball first. So that's how you tell some of these split hits are tough, but that gives you a big clue what's going on there. Mark, when you have a shot like this where you're trying to make the 8 ball and the 9 is impeding the line of the pocket, first you look at it from this side and you determine how much room you had. Looks like you got about a half a pocket. But if you look at it from the other side, you'll see the actual amount of room. You always have a little more room if you look at it from the pocket side.
I see what you mean. There's plenty of room.
Okay. So to sum this shot up, when you have a blocking ball and you think you might have enough room to make a ball by it in the corner pocket, it's always best to go around to the pocket side and look back this way, and you always seem to have a little more room when you walk over to the pocket and check the shot out.
While I was ragging them up, she was looking me over, licking her lips. Yeah, she broke them wide open, I was way in over my head.
Mark is going to make the 14 and draw the cue ball back for the 8 ball in this corner. One of the problems amateurs have when the balls are fairly close together and they're trying to draw the cue ball back, too many times the amateur will poke at the ball to get the cue out of the way, not realizing when they're this far apart, they can finish the swing and just turn the hand up to get the cue out of the way. We don't like the habit of poking. So watch what Mark does to get the cue tip out of the way. They just bend the hand up. We don't like the habit of poking. We want you to, when you can, stroke through it, just turn the hand up. You just turn the hand up like that. Now, there is a time when you have to poke, and that is when you're very close. Now, if Mark wanted to draw back for the 8 ball, he has to poke it so he doesn't double hit. But the secret of this is take a slow backswing, then poke it a 1 inch and get the cue out of the way. This is about the only time we want you to poke.
Look out, child.
I'd like to show you something I learned from an old timer a long time ago. It's very interesting to me. I think you'll like it too. I call it the 4-inch rule shot or shots. If you put a cue ball on that spot and an object ball on this spot, if you hit the ball, 25% of this ball, 50% of the ball, up to 75% of the ball, from 25 to 75% of the ball, the cue ball goes the same place. And in this case, it should hit about 4 inches from the middle of this pocket. Very soft. Okay. and it'll hit there every time, whether Mark hits a quarter of the ball, a half of the ball, or 3/4 of the ball, the cue ball will go the same place. There he hit it much thinner, it went the same place. Now, guess what? If we're playing 9-ball, and Mark wants to make this 9-ball, from the spot, it hit 4 inches from the center of the pocket. If he moves the cue ball 4 inches to the left,
let's say there'd be 2.
there. Now, he will make that 9-ball 1,000 in a row if he hits 25%, 50%, or 75% of the 3-ball. Okay. Now, let's do it once more. 4 inches to the left, we'll put him 4 inches over more, and it'll hit that 9-ball every time. Okay? Now watch. Now, if I put this back on the spot and raise this ball up 4 inches, now he'll also make the 9 every single time. Okay? And he hit it so perfect he scratched. Just kidding. So now, if he moves that one back over 4 inches, now he'd scratch, okay? So if he moves this down 4 inches, now he'll hit here again. Watch. Now he'll miss the 9 again. Okay, stay there. Now move it over 8 inches, 4 more inches. This one down 4 inches, that one over 8 inches. Now he'll make the 9 every time. Okay, now here's a very interesting shot. Let's say we're playing 9-ball, and I can show Mark how to get ball in hand here. Say he's a little scared of that spot, the spot shot here. So if he moves this over, if he shoots the 3 here, the cue ball hits here. If he moves it over 4 inches, the cue ball goes in the hole. If he moves it over another 4 inches, now the cue ball will hit here, here, and go right behind that 9-ball. The 3-ball will go down here, roll up in here, and Mark just might have ball in hand. Watch. So this little 4-inch rule around the spot can come in very handy if you're playing one pocket and almost any game. So if you're in a one pocket game and there's a ball on the spot and you're here, you're on the 4-inch line here, so don't hit the 9 on that side, you're going right in the hole. But if you're on the 8-inch line here, now you don't have to fear scratching at all in that corner pocket. All you got to do is hit a quarter, a half, or 3/4 of the ball, and you can't scratch. Only if you hit it very thin can you scratch. If the cue ball's coming in from that 8-inch line, that cue ball should hit here every time. Okay, so that 4-inch rule is very important around the spot and down at that end of the table. Practice this shot, and you might get out of a lot of jams just having this knowledge of the 4-inch rule. People often ask, why do I miss straight in easy shots? And they'll put this shot down and they'll say, I had this shot for game ball and I missed it. Why do I miss these easy shots? It was straight in. And what they don't realize is that there's a lot of distance between the cue ball and the object ball, and a lot of distance between the object ball and the pocket. It makes it an extremely difficult shot. If the 8 ball is close to the pocket like this or closer, it becomes easier. If the 8 ball is close to the cue ball, it becomes easier, more room for more leeway there. But when there's a lot of distance on each side of this ball, it is a very difficult shot. A lot of people, especially novices, don't really know what is an easy shot. How do I know if I'm shooting an easy shot or not? And there's a rule that I think is good for many novice players. And here's the rule. If the cue ball and the object ball are on the same end of the table and the shot is 45 degrees or less, you should make them all. So if you miss shots like this, if you miss shots like that, if you miss a shot like this, you better shoot those till you make them. These are easy shots. This is about 45 degrees right here. Here, we don't expect you to make them all. But when they're 45 degrees or less, we expect you to make them all. You got to learn to make them all. Few games, not very many games are lost because you miss a long, tough shot. Most games are lost because you miss a close, easy shot. That gives your opponent a free trip to the table. These are the ones you practice so you never miss them, and you'll win a lot more games of 8-ball.
Look out, child.
What we're going to talk about now is what I call bread and butter shots. It's a shot that comes up every rack. And in this case, we're going to play position on the 8-ball. And whenever you have an angle into this rail, and pros leave this angle all the time, because if they leave the other angle, there's usually balls here and they get in big trouble. So it's easy to leave this angle to get position on the 8. Now many players, most players can do this. They say, well, I hit it with low right hand spin to get down on the 8. But the low is what's bothering. Here's why. First of all, we like to do a stop shot, which means the cue ball arrives here with no spin and goes down the tangent line. If the cue ball goes down the tangent line, we know exactly what angle it'll come off. Then we know how much English to use to hit the middle of this rail. So most amateurs that hit this below center, it'll draw a little bit and it'll hit between that diamond and this diamond, and that means they're going to scratch a lot. So the pros hit this shot as a stop shot, so then they know the exact angle it would come out normally, and in this case you'd have to add this much spin. We want that cue ball here, away from these problem zones all the time when we can. So I call this a bread and butter shot because it just wins tons of games. A lot of times amateurs don't notice. Amateurs will say, well, I can get here, but they get here different from the pros. Pros will come this easy way, never scratch to end up here, and some of the amateurs will get here or scratch, but we're going to teach you how to do this so you get here very often, and the more you practice, the easier it is. Now, the closer this ball gets to the rail, the tangent line is now almost straight into the rail. So you need lots of spin to get back here to this second diamond. The farther off the rail that ball is, the more the tangent line is back, so you need less spin to get the cue ball down to this second diamond. And once you master that you can shoot all these shots and hit close to this second diamond, then you're also good enough to hit here if you need to, here if you need to, or here if you need to. But this is the learning spot here, the second diamond. It's the safest way to get to this end of the table for the 8-ball. So I'm going to just set up a whole bunch of shots for Mark. And what the brain does is first you have to decide the tangent line. It's better to shoot this shot with a stop shot or stun shot than it is with draw. Because with draw, you're not sure how much it might curve before it hits a rail. With a stop shot, you know exactly where it's going to hit the rail. Now all you have to do is adjust how much English you need to hit the second diamond. So let's watch Mark. Okay, Mark could have used a little more right-hand English on that one to hit the second dot. I told him to do that. So now we'll give Mark a different angle. We're going to give him a different angle, so his brain has to say, there's a tangent line, here's where no English goes. I've got to use enough right-hand English to get down here. Okay, very good. Now we're going to give him a tougher one. It's close to the rail. The tangent line is almost straight across. So Mark will have to hit this with a lot of spin and much softer because there's a large angle. Very nice. Very nice. Now when the ball gets way out here, now the tangent line is way back there, which might be too much. So Mark might use a little bit of follow with a little bit of right. Excellent, excellent. So, a little tidbit of knowledge on a shot like this now. If you have a really, really tough angle like this, if you use any power, you're going to get beat here. What a pro would do is shoot so soft. The best he can do is right in here on this shot. That's the best he can do. So he'll shoot the right speed knowing that every inch off of this rail makes this shot tougher. So a pro will just take this and accept it. Accept the shot. That's the best way to do that shot. It's impossible to get back any farther, so a pro will just accept this shot. But it's a very touchy speed shot. We'll do one more. But once you practice this, just set them up at randomly like I've been doing here, and do this until you can hit right in this area anytime you want. This shot wins lots of games. That's why I call it a bread and butter shot.